Welcome to lesson 1 of C# from start to finish. Today, we're going to get our scenario and start our initial planning of the project. So let's jump right in. So here's our scenario. We had a friend come to us and say, I want you to create a tournament tracker. We've got this office pool and we want to play each other in a way that we can determine who's the best. So we're going to create a bracket system and we're going to have the computer tell us who to play in a single elimination style bracket. So at the end, the winner should come out on top, the person who's won all the games. So the model is the NCAA basketball tournament bracket for March Madness. So that's the basic scenario that our friend comes to us with. And that isn't enough to start the application, but it's enough for us to start planning. The first place you should always start is with requirements. Now you may say, I understand what the application is. I should just start figuring out how the code's going to work. That's really the first rookie mistake that you'll make, is the idea of, I know what the application should do, so I should start by coding. And really, we're going to put off coding for about 5 or 6 lessons. And the reason why is because if we set a good foundation now, it'll make coding so much easier and we'll have less bugs. So trust me, this is important. So let's start off with the requirements and kind of flesh out what we've been given so far. So far we know we need to track games played and their outcome. So who won? So imagine you have 4 players playing and we'll have 2 games played and the winners of those 2 games play each other, and then that winner would be the winner of the overall bracket. That's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to track those games that have been played and their outcome so we know who won, so we know who goes to the next round. We're also going to have multiple competitors. I mean, that sounds obvious, but you really need to have it down on paper. Next, we're going to create a tournament plan. Who plays in what order? It's not that we're given a list of who's going to play. We have to determine who gets to play and when. And then we need to schedule games. How we schedule games? That's not been specified. But we know that we have to have some kind of list of these are the people to play and what order. We do know that a single loss eliminates a player from the tournament. We also know that the last person standing is the winner. So after all the games have been played, we should have one person left standing at the end. That's the winner. And that's really all the requirements we've built so far. There's not a whole lot more to it yet, which means that the next thing we should do is ask a set of questions. We need to find out what the full requirements are. Because here's the deal with any project, whether this is a personal project, a project for a friend, that question is only valid if we're going to schedule the games. Okay, so that's the first 5. But guess what? I got more questions. If the games are played whenever, can a game from the second round be played before the first round is complete? Okay, so this won't work real well with my example of 2 games in the first round, 1 game in the second round. But what if we had a pre-round, where the true first round is 4 games, and then the next round is 2 games, and the round after that is 1 game. So in that case, if 2 of those 4 games are played already, and those 2 winners happen to be playing each other in the next round, can they go ahead and do round 2 before the other 4 teams play each other to determine who plays the other game in that second round? We got to figure that out in order to know what we can allow people to do and not allow people to do if they can play whenever. Again, if we're going to schedule the games, this doesn't matter. Next question. Does a system need to store a score of some kind or just who won? So this is what I'm thinking. Maybe we want to have more than just you won or you lost. Maybe we want to have some kind of information about what the score was. Maybe for more prizes at the end. Say highest point differential or closest win or luckiest player, something like that. Or just to have, here's all my scores. Do you want to store that or not? All right, question 8. What type of front end should the system have? Is it just a form like a WinForm application? Is it a website or a web page? Is it a phone app of some kind? For those of you that want to jump right into coding, that'd be your first hurdle, is we never really specified. Then the temptation is rookie mistake number 2, which is assumptions. That's a huge mistake. Don't ever assume if you don't have to. If we just jumped in and started coding, we'd have to assume what type of front end it is, or we'd have to ask the question, which is what we're doing here. It's just we're being intentional about it instead of being oops, we have to find out more information. Next question. Where is the data going to be stored? That's really important to know. We're going to generate a lot of data. We're assuming, and again, that's an assumption, but we're assuming that the application won't be running the entire tournament. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't store any data. But that question will spark that thought in the mind of the owner, the person who asked for this project, also known as a stakeholder, and we'll call that person stakeholder from now on. So the person that wants this tournament tracker created is our stakeholder, and they would know, do we want to store data? And either tell us where they want it stored or say, can you help me determine where we should store it? But that question will generate that conversation. All right, next question. Will this system handle entry fees, prizes, or other payouts? Usually when you have a tournament, you have some type of reward. Now maybe that reward is just, hey, you won. But maybe it's something more substantial. For example, someone who has administrator access, the ability to create a tournament, and then also to enter information. But do we want to have a user that can just see the tournament? Maybe we want a view that's just the read-only view. That'd be a varying level of access. So do we need that? Or is it just that whoever uses the application can see and do everything? Number 14, should this system contact users about upcoming games? Now think about it. How would you know that you're going to play a game? How do you know that we're all the way through or most of the way through round one and your game's up next? We have to let them know somehow. Maybe the tournament administrator just lets everybody know manually. That seems counterintuitive, especially since we're creating an application right now. And this is probably one of those questions that your friend doesn't even have a thought about yet. They haven't thought, oh, how are we going to let people know? They just want to create a tournament tracker. So this question is probably going to spark a discussion of what's possible, what's available. And from that, you can kind of flesh out more of these requirements, or maybe more of the features that are nice to have or would like to have in the future, but aren't really necessary for now. And the last question I came up with is each player on their own, or can teams use this tournament tracker? So for example, if this was a doubles tennis tournament, there's not just one person, there's two people on a doubles team. So are we going to record that, or is it just the team captain or the random person who came in first that we put the team in their name? That's a question that could be asked. My thought is, again, they use the example of the NCAA basketball tournament, the March Madness bracket. Well, a basketball team isn't just one person. It would be all 12 people, or all, at least the 5 starters. Okay, we're talking about probably an office situation or a group of friends. So maybe it's not, 12 people to a team, but maybe it's a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, in which case a team of 3. Or maybe it's just a ping pong tournament and each person is on their own. So the question is, can this tournament tracker handle both? Should it handle both? Do you want it to handle both? Or are we saying that we're going to lock it into a certain avenue, a certain type of setup? And that, believe it or not, is all the questions that I came up with. Now, are there more that I could probably ask? Probably. I'm sure that as we get into this application, we're going to find out, oh, we should have asked that, and we'll need to go back to the stakeholder. But those are the questions that I came up with that I thought, these are the things that I'd ask right away up front to get some clarity on how this application should be built and what general direction I need to go. Now, I'm going to say this probably multiple times throughout this course, but don't stress out about, I have to be perfect here. But do work hard to get as much as possible up front. The more you have up front, the more likely it is that you set yourself up for success down the road. And with that, we're done with all the questions. And we're also done with lesson 1. We've gone over the requirements, and we've kind of asked those questions to expand the requirements to what we need to know in order to get started. Now, coming up next in lesson 2, we're going to do what I call overview planning, which is we'll have the information back from the questions that we asked, and then we'll start taking a look at what does that mean for the application, and in the end, we'll have a good general direction for where we should take this application.